Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, goal!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined by Madison.
Yeah, this is what it feels like to be in Anthony's seat, going number 2 instead of 3. So, feels good.
Got Gian back.
Gian.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
And we got Stefano for the second week running, back by popular demand.
Always good to join, lads. Always good to join.
Yeah, AJ's out. He's currently moving across the country. It's taken him like 4 days to drive from Arizona to wherever he's going, West Virginia. So that put it all in perspective for
West
me.
Virginia.
Yeah, country roads. So yeah, he's out for this weekend. So Madison is promoted to vice chairman for today. So yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have much good news to talk about. To be totally honest, I don't want to start it off on a negative note, but we've got a defeat to recap. 2 fairly interesting games to preview as well, but we'll dive straight into it and just get it out of the way because it's a few days ago now, and it still feels pretty sore to me because it was a big opportunity when you look at some of the results that have happened since. But Wednesday evening, played Sassuolo at San Siro. If we thought that we'd got our House of Horrors thing over and done with by beating Genoa 2-1, perhaps you could say we were lucky in that game. We won with an own goal. Sassuolo didn't exactly provide any happy medicine for us. We were 1-0 up until less than 15 minutes remaining, and then Sassuolo's subs, in particular Raspadori, took the game away from us, and we lost 2-1. So one of them, More dropped points at home, our 5th home defeat in the league in 2021 so far. Dropped points in the top 4 race. This one's hard because we were in control of this game definitely for 60 minutes. You could argue for 75 minutes until their equaliser came. But yeah, pretty damaging. Anyone?
Yeah, well, from personally, obviously it's disappointing for the loss, like very disappointing. But I think it's our own. It's just our own fault again. A couple of lapses in concentration has cost us, like it has in previous weeks, as well as individual errors. But once again, we've gone a week where we've created more than enough chances to put a game to bed. And whether it's our strikers, wingers, midfielders, someone's let us down in like the scoring aspect, and we find ourselves just ruined missed chances. I think all it is. I know some people against Pioli's selection choices, and I can understand it to a certain extent, but I do believe we've done it to ourselves another week running where we just haven't taken enough chances that we've created, and I think we've created more than enough to bury games. Like if we,
yeah,
this is where it comes to. I think this is where it comes to the point where obviously if Ibra would fit, a lot of them chances would have been gone. But if we find a striker that's in the prime. We're scoring 3-4 goals a game with the chances that we're creating, but we're just not taking them.
I feel like our luck has just run out. We just can't find the back of the net. The team looks tired, and they just look like they've given up at the back end of every game. They just look like they're just done.
Personally, I wouldn't say that our luck's run out because. In a way, it has in the scoring sense, but our luck's been bad all year round with injuries, COVID, everything else. And we've kind of been riding quite a lot of luck to stay in the position that we have been, considering the injuries and the COVID that we've got. And now we've kind of got back a team to full fitness, and we're just not taking chances that we've been given. Like the past 3 or 4 games, we've created 4 or 5 very good scoring opportunities that a striker would be licking the lips at. Someone like Belotti, Ronaldo at Juventus, like when he's given that scoring chance, he takes it, and that's Lukaku into it, and that's the difference. What's going to cost us in the long term is if we don't take them chances that we're creating more than enough of.
I have to say, it's quite a hard game to analyse because for me, it was a game of 2 halves. we have to give credit to Pioli for surprising Sassuolo with the setup of the team. I believe, Ollie, you've written an article about it being a 4-2-2-2, 4-2-2-2 formation, which was sort of like an inverted 4-4-2. And I thought it was intelligent. You know, it was intelligent to get Rebic and Leao together to support each other, keep them close, not isolate Leao up top in what has been a failed number 9 experiment. It was good to get Salamakers, keep him on the right, keep him in between the lines, you know, creating chances with his through balls. And even Çalhanoğlu on the left, he sort of confused the right back or confused the defensive midfielder because they weren't quite sure where to pick him up from. Obviously, that allowed ourselves to take the lead in the game and create a few opportunities. And obviously, it can come with not taking the most of all your chances. And the second half, I don't think we did a lot wrong, but we didn't do a lot right up until obviously their equaliser, and that sort of shocked us. And we became hasty. And I have to say, like, obviously with the second goal that they scored, Tomori's quite rash. He stepped up. I think like he got caught off guard by Raspadori. But the whole first half, I thought we were impeccable. You talk about the whole back line, there was none of them put a foot wrong. Dalot with an incredible block from close range. Calabria and Salamakers looked incredible down the right. Kaya, Tomori, incredible. And obviously Donnarumma had a good save I think halfway through the first half. So it's a really hard game to analyse, in my opinion, because I just felt like a few moments just cost us. And you're right, we should have made the most of the opportunities that we created, but we're lacking that striker in that aspect.
I totally agree. It's a difficult game to analyse as an overview, to look at it and think, how on earth, especially when you see the stats that have just flashed up, how on earth have we come away from that with absolutely nothing, empty-handed, being in control for 75 minutes, having the lead until the 76th minute and coming away with nothing is difficult. In terms of the tactical analysis that I did, it was probably the easiest one that I've done this season, because it was very easy to see what Sassuolo were trying to do from the first minute and nearly managed to do in the first half. And was to attack down their left-hand side and try and draw bodies over and then get Dalot in isolation, obviously in our left-back position. If you think back to when Juve came to San Siro and their entire game plan was based around getting Chiesa one-on-one with Teo Hernandez. And it worked, and it worked perfectly, and we were naive, we fell into the trap. We did exactly that again. Now, obviously, Berardi didn't score, but he should have scored if the pass was better in that first half chance when Dalot slid in for that block. He should have attacked the ball better, or the pass should have been firmer. But then in the second half, if you look, that's where both of the goals ultimately came from, was from Sassuolo's right side. Raspadori came on, and I'll go on record now, I said it in the chat. I think he's going to be a special player. I said he reminds me of a more well-rounded Cutrone in the sense that he takes up pockets of space and he works hard and he's good with the ball at his feet. And I've been impressed with what I've seen from him. I'll be surprised if he explodes next season. But he came on and caused a lot of problems because what Pioli had said is to Tomori, you stay on him. So when Raspadori actually took up the position of number 10, Tomori was standing 5 yards out of the defensive line. And if you look at it for the first goal, that's where Tomori's right up behind Raspadori and he manages to spread it wide. But because Tomori's pushed up, Dalot's too narrow, and that means that Berardi's got... no, it wasn't. It was... oh, God, I can't remember who the right back was who squared it in for Raspadori to make it 1-1. And then for the second goal, the ball gets fed into Raspadori. And Tomori's learnt his lesson from the first goal that we conceded, but this time he stood a bit too far off him. So that allows him then, Raspadori, to get the ball, turn and shoot. And I have to question Donnarumma on the second goal because it was from a fairly narrow angle and he doesn't even move. He just watches it go past him and in off the far post. Again, as Gian says every week, we go, if this is a €10 million a year goalkeeper, you've got to be seen to be making an effort to stop that. It was naive. It was really bad. And if this is the game that costs us top 4, then I'll be really angry because I think it shows that we haven't learned as much as we'd like to think. In terms of the way that we performed in the last 20 minutes.
I don't know if you can call this game the game that cost us top 4. I mean, we lost to Spezia. We've dropped a lot of ties, and those all just add up. So, yeah. I mean, Sassuolo, I feel like, has had our number since they entered the league. I don't know when they got promoted, but seems like in the last 5 years they've always given us trouble. So these games we should be much more prepared.
I think it was when they came up, they beat us a lot, didn't they? And then we've had a number on them.
Recently, we've had I've said good performances. I was talking to Gian about this after the game. I think prior to this, we've just been a bit more clinical. You know, if we look at the obviously the earlier fixture this season with Leao's goal early into the game. I think the previous year, or was it maybe the year before, when like Castillejo scored a goal. I think Suso got 2. We were just clinical. We were deadly in these games, even in positions where we didn't have strikers in those games either. Recognized strikers. We played with false nines. But we were just clinical, and I think that it's like I said, it's a hard game to analyze because moments just didn't go in our favor, and you know, here we are. I don't think this is the moment that cost us top 4. I think it was always going to be a hard race. It was always going to be a tough one, and speak to any Milan fan prior to the season, I think you'd be, regardless of how our success has been in the first half of the season, it was always going to be a tough season because we need to analyze this from the club that started the season, the players, who we think they are, who we think the coach is, and realistically, we are still going above what we expected to be doing, and we are still second place. We are still, you know, fighting for a top 4 spot, and it's not over. And on the record, I think whoever's going to miss out the top 4, in my opinion, it's either going to be Milan or Juventus. I'd love it to be Juve. I would love it to be them. And it's going to make the next couple of weeks very interesting with how these fixtures go down, especially playing Juve in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I would love to see Juve finish 5th and us finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. But with the way the team has been playing the past...
I agree with what you said, Stefano, about Pioli, the way they set up...
the way that the team has been playing the last 3 or 4 weeks, I can't see us finishing top 4.
It's tough. There's been
the results. The other results have been helping us so much.
Yeah, 100%
more than I expected them to. You know, but it's just a weird season.
There was one thing that I published in early February, and it got a lot of hate. It was an article from a stats, I guess an algorithms company called StatsBomb, and they basically compiled something that said that if you look at a lot of the metrics, we were the team that has been most likely to drop off out of the other teams that were in the top 4, because our stats is such a general term for it. Obviously, they've pumped loads of numbers in and stuff, and they came back with the idea that we're actually performing way above where we should be. And then there was another thing as well that came out, and it was all about athletic data and how in the first half of the season we were comfortably outrunning every team we played. And we weren't necessarily creating more chances, but we were just the physical aggressors. We were dominating teams athletically, and that was our cutting edge. Whereas in the second half of the season, we've barely outrun anybody. And I think you can see it. I think that comes as a consequence of fatigue and injuries, and we've not been able to have the lineup that we'd like to have for the majority of weeks now. And we're in a position where I think things have started to catch up to us a little bit. I don't think we're as bad as the second half of the season suggests. You know, if you get back those the Udinese game and the Sampdoria game and the Sassuolo game, and you replay those as if they were first half of the season games, and we probably win them comfortably. That's just like, the way it is. But at the same time, I think that this, and I said this to Gian earlier, I think that this second half of the season it could be important. The legacy of this season could be very useful for us in the sense that it's perhaps showed that our depth isn't as reliable as we thought. If in the first half of the season we could rely on outrunning teams and that was okay, it's okay that we were missing Ibra because we were physically dominating teams and we were winning regardless. Second half of the season has perhaps showed that everybody's carrying a little bit of fatigue, and perhaps the legs aren't as fresh, the minds aren't as fresh as well. That's a big thing. The season over 50 games takes its course. And we are where we are. Perhaps this has shown us that the squad isn't as complete as we would have liked. Perhaps just a victim of having too many selection problems that have come in crucial games at crucial times. And maybe next season everything will even itself out and we'll be, I don't know, third for the entire year. We don't know. But at the moment, we're in a position where great in first half of the season, pretty bad in the second half of the season. Amazing away from home. If we win tomorrow against Lazio, we'll set a record for the most away wins in the first 16 games of the season or whatever. But absolutely awful at home this season. We're like Jekyll and Hyde. There's been two sides to the coin for us all season. If this is what it takes to show that we were riding the crest of the wave and we do actually need a bit more investment to make this squad competitive in all areas, perhaps we do need a player in each department. We need a fullback, we need a centre-back, we need that fourth midfielder, we need a good right winger, we need a good striker. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money, and that's just the way it is. But if we get back into the top four, which at this point we just kind of need to fall over the line, I don't think we're going to surge into top four. I don't think we're going to finish on 85 points or anything like that. I think we're going to just have to fall over the line, regroup, have a full pre-season. Even just getting back some players that could be quite important to us, drive up the competition by bringing someone like Pobega back into the fold. And I'm as optimistic as I am pessimistic at the moment. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Do you guys think that Romagnoli is going to fight for his? He's obviously going to fight, but do you think he's going to earn his spot back, or do you think he's gone?
Just before I answer that, I think I will answer that first. I think he's going to fight for his spot, and I think he'll actually do some good bits, and we might end up thinking, actually, he is where we thought he was at or where we hoped he was at, in a sense. Mm-hmm. But just before I touch on that a bit more, I just want to go back to a couple of points. Stefano's point earlier when he was saying about like how Pioli's tactics were kind of spot on in the first half, and they were. And this is where I get a bit annoyed when I see Milan fans calling for Pioli out, because if we'd have buried them chances, we'd have walked Sassuolo off the park, and we wouldn't even be in this conversation now where Pioli's not good enough to take us to that next level, because you can see the tactical tweaks that he's doing every now and again, and you can see how good football that at times we are playing, but it is just genuinely the lack of finishing that is letting us down.
Yeah, but you can argue that in so many sports that it's a lack of finishing. Like that's
you could, but I'm arguing it.
That's the difference between winning and losing is finishing, and if we're not finishing, and who does it fall on? It falls on the manager. Like that's.
Does it really? If Leao is missing 2 or 3 big chances a game, Rebic when he missed that absolute sitter, that's not. I'm sorry, that genuinely isn't on Pioli. That is on the players that are taking the shots. Pioli's
right,
on the pitch,
but in the management perspective, in management's perspective, if we're not winning games, it's the manager's fault. It doesn't matter. Management's not going to look at. We had 15 shots on net, and we did not make any of them, but we still lost.
I think
at the end of the season, where we finish is going to come down to the manager. If we don't get top 4, then I bet that they sack Pioli. And they're not going to be like, you know what? In that Sassuolo game, we missed some easy shots. Let's not fire him. It's just,
They probably will, but then you're back to square one where we were under Gattuso. If Gattuso didn't have to suffer with a lot of injuries like he did, like when Jack went injured for that period where we were desperate for a left winger, we were 10 minutes away from finishing Champions League football, and we sacked him, and we hired Gianpaolo, and it was a complete fail. And all it's going to come back to is, when we sack Pioli in the summer, if we don't get top 4, we're just going to regress again. And then after the 8 or 10 games, it's going to take the manager to adapt to the league. We're still going to be off the top 4. Pioli's doing a fantastic job. And to say that it's a manager's fault for the players not finishing, I think it's just a ludicrous excuse. Like Teo Hernandez, when he made that stupid pass against Sampdoria, that's not on Pioli. That is just
no. I'm not saying the small mistakes are on the manager, but the end game is. and
Yeah,
all
you
those
could- you can't-
small mistakes will bite the manager in the ass.
Yeah,
Like,
of course it will,
when-
but ultimately it's not always on the manager. When we're doing well, we don't praise the manager, we praise the players. But when we're doing crap, suddenly we start to blame the manager. When really, when you actually look at the games and the chances we're missing, that's not on the manager. That is on the players not scoring easy chances, making silly, sloppy defensive errors, making stupid 2-3 yard passes that you go to an under 5 teams with, and they can make them passes. That pass that Teo made against Sampdoria, it just doesn't happen normally. It's just like an anomaly that will end up costing us. And unfortunately, yeah, that might cost Pioli his job, but it's unfair just to blame the manager on the losses when you actually look at the game and the chance that missed or the mistakes that he made. I know from like the sporting director's role, blah, 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 they will not say that that's what cost him. Obviously, it is a results game at the end of the day, but I wouldn't say it's all on Pioli. His tactics were spot on against Sassuolo. I thought people criticised his selection choices, but I actually thought it was pretty decent. And if them chances had been scored in the first half and early in the second half, we wouldn't be having this conversation now because we'd have got the 3 points. And it might end up costing Pioli his job, but I genuinely don't think it's all in. You can blame a manager when, say, for example, he's playing a striker at centre back and the centre back at left wing. That's idiotic from a manager. But when he's actually playing the best players that he thinks are available, and your top quality players that are asking for big money are just making silly, stupid mistakes, missing easy chances, that's not on the manager. You put a top quality forward there, he scores that, and we're not even talking about Pioli getting sacked. You've got to, and this is where I'll come on to the point that Ollie made about maybe the second half of the season. Maybe it is a good thing that we've dropped off because it might make the management think now, no, we do need the reinforcements up front. That's probably the biggest area that the manager messed up with in winter, was not bringing a top striker in. Mandzukic was a gamble that we had to make. Like, you couldn't miss up on that opportunity to bring Mandzukic in. But when you look back, maybe we should have brought someone in that was fit in the prime to get us probably the Scudetto, definitely the Champions League, but maybe the Scudetto. And I just think the criticism on Pioli is very, very harsh, considering what he's taken us from to where we are now. And we are punching above our weight, probably, when you look at the squad. So, to call
if I could just interject on that point there,
yeah,
that's spot on. I was about to say that we have to be humble about this. And you got to think back to when Pioli took over. He played a 4-4-2 with us when he took over. It was a shambles of what Gianpaolo made our team into be. Made it a 4-4-2, put Leao up top there with Ibrahimovic, played Hakan, I think it's a left winger. It was very just trying to fix it. Look at us now. We're a systematically solid team with a 4-2-3-1 formation. Yes, I know we've ridden a bit of luck. We're 47 games into a very hard season with a lot of injuries hitting us. Yeah, Pioli isn't perfect. He's not the perfect game manager, but at the same time, he does fix things. He does, he sees errors, he tries to fix it. He more often than not makes the right sub. All we can really say to really sack this guy is that, he plays Samuel Castillejo too many times. That's the main crux of any argument.
Which is a pretty solid argument, to be fair.
Where I'll jump in there is, he can only play the players that are at his disposal. And if Samuel Castillejo, Rade Krunic are giving 110% week in training, and they've been there when we've had this injury crisis, and they've given something to the team, I think everyone forgets, Krunic, when we played against Verona, we played some of our best football this season. Like, from a tactical perspective, we were solid. Krunic scored that wonder free kick, blah, blah, blah. But when we've needed these backup players, they have actually produced. But now the injuries and everything else is just catching up on us. And I don't want to blame the management, but I do think they didn't back him enough in the winter as they should have. If they had full faith in this squad, and they knew we were going to get Champions League, and they thought we could, they're actually going to get the Scudetto here. Let's invest in these players because we'll get the money back in the summer when we're actually in the Champions League. And we won't be having this conversation. I said to Ollie earlier, and if you take Lukaku out of that Inter team for the same amount of games, maybe even half the games that Ibra's missed, Inter won't be where they are now. Take Barella out of Inter for the same amount of time Benacer's being missing, they would not be where they are now. Sometimes it's football. Look, it's about luck at the end of the day, as much as it is the tactics and everything else out of it. And you need a bit of luck. But we've had over 50 injuries this season. I keep going on about it, but it has been our biggest downfall, not being able for 3 months to play your strongest 11 and yet still be fighting for the Scudetto, still be in second place. it's kind of like a miracle work, and
Yeah.
That's why
what isn't a miracle though is losing 2-1 at home to Sassuolo. Like, yes, first half of the season was the miracle because that was when we actually had more of our injuries, and we. This is where I think the excuse is wearing thin now. Is we found a way in the first half of the season to consistently win games, even big games, without Zlatan and without other star players. We had a way of winning. No matter what was thrown at us, we could win games. And now we're in a position where actually, we don't have as many injury problems as we did before. And yet the performances are regressing. And I'll give Pioli props for his first half approach in the game against Sassuolo. I thought changing formation the way that he did, Soleil wasn't isolated. Hakan moving round, which led to the first goal. That was all great. But he undid all of that good work with how naive we were in the second half. And the substitutions that he made were absolutely shocking. Like, he brought on Krunic just before the equaliser for Hakan. Why? If we've had our chances to try and double the lead, it's not happening. So we're going to try and just get the 3 points. Bring Tonali on, for God's sake. Like, if that's what we're going to try and do. And then after we'd gone 2-1 down, he brought on Castillejo over Hauger. And Hauger was the one who earned us the point against Sampdoria. He really is like struggling to sell some of these substitutions. I mean, he brought on Kalulu for Calabria. Why are you even wasting a sub with that? Calabria had a good game.
It's all ifs and buts, but we genuinely don't.
He also just had surgery, so he may not be wanting to play a full 90 minutes.
This is where I'm going to come into it with that. Like, it's all ifs and buts. We don't know the physical condition of these players. We're all saying, play how. We don't have a clue what kind of physical condition he is. Yeah, we might see him in training every day, but we don't know. He could be dropping 2 out of 10 performances in training every day and not giving the manager a reason to play him. Yeah, all right, he came on and he got the equaliser. But if he's not performing in training or he's still not at a top physical level where he can play these minutes, we don't know that. We actually had this conversation in the group chat saying where he came off the back of a full season in Norway, then came straight to us, and he hasn't had that rest, and there's the adaptation around it. We'd all be cursing Pioli if he'd be trying to play Hauger every game and he won't drop in saying, whoa, he needs a rest. Same with Hakan. Yeah, it was a questionable decision, but Hakan was a yellow card away from suspension. So what? We keep him on, he gets yellow carded, we're going mad at Pioli because he didn't take him off, and now we don't have him against Lazio.
He survived 73
you can't
minutes,
have it.
to be fair.
You can't have it both ways. But
it survived 73 minutes. But you look at Salzmacher against Cagliari, I think it was. He got 2 yellow cards in 10 minutes, and he got sent off. Like,
and then, for example, Hauger's workload. I mean, Castillejo came on for 6 minutes. Are you telling me Hauger couldn't have played 6 minutes?
I'm not saying no. That's fair enough. But what I'm saying is, we still don't. Not just a physical condition. If Hauger not performing in training, why should he play? I don't know about you, but when I was playing football, I know it's at like a low level, but when you're playing football, if you don't perform in training, you don't play at the weekend. It's just the way that it is. And unless you're some sort of superstar like Messi, Tevez, because I've heard like Tevez that were like, he didn't train well, but they're kind of like anomalies because they are going to win your games. Hauger is still at a raw age coming off a full season in Norway, adapting to a new league. And if he's not, I'm not saying that's the reason, but if he's not performing in training, why should he start over someone that's given us something during the difficult periods and is performing in training and he just feels more confident because the experience kind of takes over? I don't want to defend him too much, Pioli, but I don't think he's actually doing a lot wrong, and I think we're just being a bit too critical on someone that's taken us from really low level to a high one.
Allen Iverson hated training. I don't know if you guys remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
But first half of this season, we were in first place. Now we are fighting for Champions League. That falls on the manager. And now I don't think Pioli I'm not on the Pioli out bandwagon, but when you fall that far from being, I think at one point we were up by 9 points. We're in third now. Atalanta is winning, yeah.
Yeah, but there's been
regardless
18-point swing between us and Inter.
Right, that is unacceptable.
That's unacceptable. And the way that we got beat by Inter,
you can blame it on one mistake here, one mistake there. But when all those mistakes add up, it's the training staff. Because in practice, you should be training how not to do those things, how not to fuck up.
I'm not being funny there, mate, but Pioli and the coaching staff doesn't do a training session on how Teo Hernandez should make a pass to one of his own players.
No, but you could do it on
Well,
shooting,
yeah, for example,
on where to place the ball in the net,
and stuff.
on when to shoot.
For example,
all on the training
you
staff.
mentioned it.
You can train that for 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. But when it comes to the game, the players should be burying that. These are players that are wanting to play at an elite level, and if they can't, like Rebic, when he missed that 3-4 yard sitter, that is not
Okay,
on the coach.
if you are going to be training it for 3
player.
hours a day for 7 days a week and the player still can't do it, maybe it's the training staff.
So then who would you play? You call someone up from the Primavera and then slate it because he hasn't made the chance. What
You're
I'm
missing
saying
my
is,
point.
I'm not, because I'm agreeing, like, yeah, train it all you want. But when it comes to the game, if a player cannot score from 3 yards out or make a 5 yard pass, you can't blame that on the manager. You genuinely can't put that on the manager.
It's a game. It's really hard because it's a game of obviously fine margins, and we can look at a lot of results this season where, regardless if it's a defensive mistake or an offensive hash. I think it was Romagnoli late into the Roma game when we drew 3-3, and we obviously lost 2 points in that. He had a point blank header, couldn't score that. Kessie against Sampdoria obviously hit the bar on that one. There's been many. I think even Ibra against Hellas Verona, the draw at the start of the season,
where we had like 30 something shots.
Like there's so many ways that where obviously we're going to potentially be losing out on this spot if it happens that way, where we can pinpoint it. But also equally, I mean, is it happening on the other side? Are teams missing sitters against us? I don't. Probably a lot less. There's a lot more that we're missing a lot of clear-cut chances. I just think it's really hard one to call. And I think with the whole Pioli situation, we have to be very careful that we don't hit the reset button on this and we just revert back even more.
Agree.
I totally agree.
I don't think we should sack him. And I've been vocally, I've been vocal about the fact that I think Pioli has his limitations, and I think there will come a point where we realise that he's taken us as far as he can. Don't know when 100%. That's going to be. I think that Pioli has actually learned a lot in this job. As you mentioned, he came in and played a 4-4-2 to get us scoring goals. Then he switched us to a 4-3-2-1 to give us a bit more stability and a better press. Now we're on a 4-2-3-1. That's great. I feel like our system has maybe stagnated just a little bit. One thing I will say is that we're very rarely outplayed by anyone. We are often the team that are, dominant within games. However, the once or twice that we have been, we've dissected that at the time. Atalanta did the job on us at home, as did Juve, as did Inter. Spezia was probably the most embarrassing of the lot. But yeah, we're very rarely outplayed apart from that. I would stick with Pioli for next season. The reason being, we've already placed our eggs in the basket of continuity by renewing Ibra. So I don't think that bringing in a new manager who's going to have his own ideas about how he wants us to play. I'm not saying it'd be a Ranić type who's going to come in and be complete revolutionary, but I think we've almost made that decision as if to say we're sticking with our leaders. Yeah. These are our guys. We're going to back them next season.
Yeah, there's Sorry, there's just one last point I want to make on that. I think we've hit the woodwork like 20 times this season. If the wind was a bit more powerful that day, the chances are
blame it on the wind.
No. I'm not saying on the wind. No, but I'm just saying that's how unlucky we've been and how close we've come to another 20 goals this season. We've hit the woodwork more than anyone else in the league. You put half of them in, and we're probably still kind of on Inter's level points wise. And I don't want to. I'm not blaming it on the wind. I'm just saying, do you know what I mean?
All it takes is that little bit of luck.
Hey, Gian, say that.
No, Gian, do you watch hockey?
It was raining.
Gian, do you watch hockey?
No.
Don't, because you'll get pissed at all the shots that are on net that don't go in.
Yeah.
No, but do you know what I mean? Where I say we've hit the woodwork 20 times, and you get exactly. It is just fine margins and a deflection, and it's probably gone in and stuff like that. If the Kessie, I think it was against Sampdoria, if that deflection had just been a bit less, it's probably gone in. Yeah. And what it comes down to is very, very, very fine margins. And I'd stick with Pioli next year. And obviously, if we do miss out on top 4. I genuinely don't believe we will. I think we've got it. I personally think we've got it in the bag, whether the table says not or not. I do think we've got it in the bag. I think the players will get us there. But say, for example, we miss out on it by 1 point. At the start of the season, if everyone had said, look, lads, you're going to have X amount of injuries, even with this squad, forget the injuries, with this squad, you'd be thinking 5th, maybe 4th if we're lucky. The fact that we've been for 33 rounds, 32 rounds, 2nd place is a massive credit to Pioli and the players. But ultimately, the players are... do you know what? It's not even just the players, because it is fine margins, but that is why we're not at the top, and maybe why top 4 is now a little bit less uncomfortable than what it should be.
Well,
but
look at that Empoli game against Inter. A few years back when we were, a couple of minutes. If they took those chances in that game, we're talking about fine margins in that aspect. Mm-hmm. We'd be in the top 4 in that year. Or like players like Bennacer in there and Hammond Traore, the one who played for Sassuolo the other day. If one of them just took those chances, we'd be sitting in the Champions League that year. But to wrap things up about the Sassuolo game, I think we lost this and Ollie, you're right about the left back. We were smashing it with Boga attacking our right back, because obviously it allowed Alexis Salamakers to help track him with Calabria. That shut him down, and obviously did the isolation play to leave Dalot on the left side. And I think obviously Pioli has tried to sort something out in the attack department by keeping Rebic and Leao together up top, but it sacrificed the defensive play of the left winger. And obviously having Hakan Çalhanoğlu on a booking, probably running down the game, he's not going to get back as much. And we talk about the Krunic substitution, but he probably thought, all right, defensively, this is going to bring him back, help us out on the left side. Didn't in the end, but technically that substitution makes sense. I don't think this game was lost by subbing on Castillejo instead of Haug. It was lost there because we risked it too many times at a left back spot, and they just made us pay. And then on the second goal, we were just so brash and we couldn't get our way back into the game. The game was lost there, to be honest. And, if that's on the coach, it might be on the coach. It might just be on the lack of personnel in that position. Technically, I guess in hindsight, you would have put Rebic at left wing to help out. If you want to keep the 4-4-2 alive, put Rebic at left wing to help out Dalot, and then keep Leao and Mandzukic up front to maybe give a attacking threat as well. That might be, in hindsight, the right solution. But yeah.
I agree, but like you said, Hakan was on the yellow away from suspension. I think Rebic is on the yellow away from suspension. And we know how Rebic is. So, like you said, blame the manager if you want to blame the manager. But when you actually look at it, if you'd kept them players on and then they had to be booked
you cannot base substitutions on hypothetical yellow cards that players might get when we're still fighting for the result.
That's fair enough, but you can't also base the substitutions hypothetically. If Howard had come on, he'd have scored. It's the same thing. No. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't. If Castillejo hadn't passed the ball 20 minute, we might have done something. I'm not saying how wouldn't have done the same. You know what I mean? But you've kind of, when you're 1-0 up and you're actually comfortably in the game like we were, and then you think, do you know what? Maybe we'll just go a bit defensive here because we do need to watch a couple of players. Otherwise, we're going to get spanked by Lazio by not having players available. If we'd have won, we'd have been like, fantastic Pioli, great game. But because we lost, obviously, we're blaming him. But I think the reason why we lost is missed chances once again. And individual errors, like you said about Tomori, just being a bit too rash. Like, we've been praising Tomori, but if that Romagnoli, we'd have probably kicked him out of Milan and we'd have sent him on a ship to Zimbabwe somewhere. But obviously, it's just one of them games. It's ifs and buts and it is fine margins. But that's football at the end of the day. And to win games, you've got to score goals.
I was going to say, back about the Romagnoli one.
If we won every game.
I didn't get a chance to answer that one about Romagnoli. I do think he'll step his game up because finally there's competition for his spot. But at the same time, I do want him out of the club because I do not want any more Raiola clients at this club. Agree. As long as we can control that. And obviously, Ibrahimovic is an exception because he's got 1 year left in the tank of his whole career, and even
he manages his own contracts. Raiola
unbelievable.
That's totally different because 22-year-old Ibrahimovic wasn't managing his own contract.
Right.
He's at the end of his career.
Exactly.
He don't care about money and all.
He knows what he wants.
He also still used Raiola's legal team. It's just that Raiola wasn't there in person.
I'm still listening. I've just got to run for a second. I won't be a minute.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm going to move on to the Sassuolo preview, the Lazio preview anyway, because don't want to run too much, but this is going to be a tough one. Obviously, we record on Sunday nights, so we're playing this time tomorrow. Napoli will go before us. They play Torino, so it'll be interesting to see what their result is. Torino are now sort of back in the relegation picture after Cagliari's win earlier today, so hopefully they can give Napoli a good game. Otherwise, the pressure's on us to perform and to get a result. Away at Lazio, obviously we did that last season. We won 3-0. That was when they didn't have Immobile, or I think they were missing Alberto as well in that game. Yeah. Or Correa won. They didn't have an attack basically for that game. We beat them 3-0, and that was fantastic. That was part of our run, our fantastic run to close out the season. So Lazio finished 4th last season despite having mounted a title challenge for the majority of it. So I've been a bit disappointed about that. And they've kind of carried on that slump into this season because they're currently in 6th place. They're going to be probably 8 points. After today's games, they're going to be 8 points away from a top 4 spot. So it's going to be tough for them to catch. The damaging defeat for them was the Napoli one last week. And losing 5-2 there was not good, or in midweek even. And that now makes it, I suppose, a must-win for them tomorrow. Just as for us, with the Sassuolo result and the way our away form has been this season, it perhaps becomes a bit of a must-win as well. But anyway, Lazio this season have won 18 out of 31 games. They've only drawn 4, lost 9, 53 goals for, 46 goals against. They actually haven't drawn a game since the 3rd of January. So that suggests that, that since then, 12 wins, 4 defeats. That suggests that we're going to get a result tomorrow one way or the other. Now, I said this about Sassuolo and kind of got it wrong, but I'll say it again. I feel like this is the kind of game that might play into our hands a little bit, because if our strength is supposedly our counter-attacks, and I don't think it is anymore, to be brutally honest. I think the players mentally are clouded on what to do when we get the ball in space up the other end. But, this ain't going to be a team that sits with a low block. They do play a 3-5-2, which suggests to me we might find it a little bit difficult at first. But let's have to win this game. They have to win to have a hope of being in the top 4. So they're going to have to come at us. Obviously, they've got Immobile who can hurt us. Milinkovic-Savic is back in good form. And Luis Alberto's a doubt, apparently, as is Lucas Leiva. Luis Felipe won't make it either. So it'll be a good game, It'll be a good test of where we're at. Because I actually think the cards are kind of stacked in our favour to win this one. And if we don't, I'll be pretty disappointed. Some people would say this is a game where you just make sure you don't lose. Make sure you don't lose, and then we'll get Benevento next Saturday, and that's the game that we've got to go out and win. But a win would send a statement, without a doubt. It would also ease the pressure a little bit for the remaining 5 fixtures. It would put Lazio out of the top 4 race for good, so then we're only worrying about Napoli. With Juve dropping points at Fiorentina today, a ground that we recently won at, it's another psychological edge. So I'm hoping that this is where we can just have a bit of optimism, like the Roma result when we went there and kind of feared the worst a little bit maybe, and then came away with a big 2-1 win. Got to hope that we come away from the capital with 3 points. But my prediction in the preview that I've written, I went with my head and went with a 1-1 draw, because I think it's going to be kind of cagey. 2 teams coming off the back of pretty damaging defeats. 2 teams that tactically completely know their identity. What Inzaghi's done there is impressive given the resources. The fact they made the Champions League knockout is good, and they've got talent that can hurt us. No, they haven't drawn for 16 games, 16 games. But perhaps they're overdue. I just went with a draw. But my prediction in this, to be different, I'm going to say 2-2 instead of 1-1.
I think with Lazio, when we played them in December, I think we were missing a couple of key players too, because I remember Kalulu was starting at centre-back, and he got done over with that little dink over the top. And if you've got someone like Kier there, he's probably just at the right height to get that. I personally think we are going to put a statement out there tomorrow. I really do. And that's not the optimistic side of me. I just think that's genuinely what's going to happen. Our away form is fantastic. And a lot of players, I suppose, have got points to prove. And when you're coming into the last 6 games of the season, you're kind of playing for your career in a sense. Well, not your career, but your time at the club. in a sense. And if these players have any sort of ambition of playing Champions League football, some of them have never been in a better position to do it, and they should be trying out there to make a statement. So I think we win 2-1. I still don't see us keeping a clean sheet, but I do think we'll play them. I think we'll play most of them off the pack, and probably a sloppy error in defence again is going to cost us a goal.
I think it's going to be 2-1 us. I think it's going to be sloppy. I don't think it's going to be convincing at all because we haven't played convincing for the past since 2020. So I'm going to say Romagnoli is going to score the winning goal in the 85th minute.
Oh, that's very. I don't know about that.
Goal, maybe.
Yeah, this is really hard.
Probably the consolation
is really
goal
hard.
Lazio.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Lazio hate us. Lazio really hate us, and Immobile on his day can just put us to the sword. I'm gonna actually be a bit pessimistic, and I think we're gonna lose. And not to say that's us done. I think we're going to lose, but we're still in the top 4 race because obviously we're level on points with Juve right now. It will not be definitive, but we're going to lose this game and then pick things up against Benevento and then go into that Juventus game with full steam ahead. I just feel like it's a bridge too far without Ibra in this game. I think we'll give it a good go. I think it'll be something like 2-1 or a 1-0 loss. It depends how well fit someone like Theo Hernandez is playing if he starts. Or if Benacer starts. It's a really hard one. I feel like we're not going to win this. I feel like it's going to be a draw or a loss. Sorry to be negative.
No. It's nice to have a realist on the podcast. Yeah. Everyone's like, we're going to win 3-0.
Trust me, like honestly, if we win this, I'll be screaming as high as I screamed in the reverse fixture when Theo scored later on into that. But I just feel like in that game and like when motivation is going in your favour, like a steam train, we're just pumping. Anything that can happen right will happen. Obviously, we got kicking the balls the other day against Sassuolo. That wasn't great. It wasn't also like justifiable with the result. I've seen us play a lot worse in other games. I just think it's a tough game, and they're going to have all their chips, their best chips to play. They won't be missing someone like Immobile, and I think it was you're right. Luis Alberto was missing that game when we beat him 3-0 last season, or maybe it was someone like Saicedo or someone. But it's a really hard one.
I think I played and he came off injured. I think that happened in December. I could be wrong, but I think Luis Alberto played and then he came off injured.
Yeah, Luis Alberto scored in I don't know about the 3-0 win last season when they didn't have a striker fit. They played Correa up front, and he just didn't get a look in at all.
I think this is the type of game where Donnarumma, Hakan, Kessie, this is where you earn your big money. This is where you're coming up against arguably one of the best strikers in the league in Immobile. This is where you've got to make the big saves. And Hakan, this is where he's got to create, I know it's hard, 105 chances for the strikers. He's got to be on form. Every pass that he makes has to be pinpoint. Kessie, every battle that's in the midfield, he has to win. You can't make a foot wrong.
He needs to keep
this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be when we're in the Champions League, when we're playing against these top elite teams, where you can't put a foot wrong. You can put a foot wrong against Crotone and still score 2 or 3 goals and win the game comfortably. When you play against these top level teams, you can't. And if you want, not that I agree with it, but if you want 12 million a year, you've got to save everything that comes in front of you. Kessie, who wants double the wage, you've got to make every single tackle. And who wants double his wage, every little pass has got to be pinpoint. Every chance has to be created. And it's a hard ask, but ultimately that's what you are paid the money for, and that's what you're going to have to be able to do when you're in the Champions League next season.
Yeah, I do. I was going to say, I don't think we're going to. We're definitely going to score against Lazio, 100%, because defensively we saw it the other day against Napoli. They're really poor. Pepe Reina in goal. He's very old. He's obviously, I think he's undersized to be a keeper. And obviously, he's done well in his career, but I think we definitely got a goal in us in this game. It's just whether we can keep him out the other end of the pitch, and that comes from individual errors and everyone just being on point. I don't know. I'll be very surprised if we can get a win in this, but I'll also be, happily surprised if we do at the same time. But
it'd send a strong message if we were to win this game.
I think the first 20 minutes are going to be key, because we've seen that when we've started really brightly and we've got nicked a goal in the first 10, 20 minutes, or we've nicked 2 goals in the first half. We look very strong and we've got a lot more confidence. And I think against a team like Lazio, if we're going to score early, it will give the lads that are lacking a bit of like Leao, if he could get a goal in the first 10 minutes, it's going to do wonders for his confidence. Rebic, if he just doesn't miss a sitter and score a world in the first 10 minutes, we might be laughing a bit. And the reason why I'm not worried about top 4 is, and I don't mean not negative against Milan, I just think everyone else is still very inconsistent. You look at Juve today dropping points against Fiorentina, Roma dropping points, Napoli, they won 5-2 against Lazio midweek for it. They'll probably lose tomorrow against Torino. Everyone is just so inconsistent. And I think we've just got that little bit extra that we're going to get top 4. I genuinely think we probably need 9 more points. I think 75 points is enough for Champions League.
I do think that Napoli's been playing better, though, in the last couple of
Napoli
weeks.
they're getting there, aren't they? They're over our shoulder for a reason. They're breathing down our necks. If you look at our form in 2021, we're actually 6th in terms of the points that we've amassed, and Napoli are top 4. But thankfully, we've got that cushion from the first half of the season to kind of dine out on a little bit. And that's what we're doing.
It doesn't come down to one half a season of football. It comes down to 2, because if it comes down to one half a season, post-lockdown, we'd have won the Scudetto. So it just comes down to your whole season's form. And Napoli at the start of the season, they were talked as Scudetto candidates. So
I have to say, why do we keep talking about Napoli being... For me, it's Juventus. I think if anyone's going to fall out potentially, look at Juventus's remaining fixtures. They've got 5 games left, obviously. We've got 1 game in hand. Udinese against us, Sassuolo, Inter Milan, Bologna. Obviously, the Bologna game might be a bit, but by that point, if we can get a win against them, Inter will not roll over against them because they hate Juventus as much as they hate us.
They normally do roll over against them at Juve Stadium, but
I don't know. But Conti and... gone. I don't know if it's like Juve or Inter. I'm not sure about that.
I'm going to say, because the Juve game could be pretty critical for them to win the title if they drop points just before that. I'm not saying that they will, but that could be a big game for them. And to win it, whether it's at the Juventus Stadium or whether it's to win at the San Siro, to win the title against Juve is going to be massive for Inter. And Conte is going to want that. The players are going to want that. And they're not just going to roll over. And I think they'll give them a good game.
They'll have won it by then, though. They're 13 points clear.
Yeah, they need another 5 points. I don't know when they play.
Yeah, they'll be fine. I mean, that's the penultimate game of the season, isn't it? So
I don't think we can ever look at another team's fixtures and go, obviously, like, look at they're going to drop points there. We have to look after ourselves. We keep talking about this.
100%.
I agree.
To be honest, like the 6 games we have remaining are so tough. I mean, not even the easier ones, because on paper, Torino, Cagliari, Benevento, we're winning those games.
They're all in a relegation scrap.
On a relegation race, So
I agree.
They're all equal. I think all on 31 points, all in the relegation race. Of course, Torino, I think, got 2 games in hand. So I think they got to play Napoli next. So it'll be very interesting to see how they perform in that game. I think we got to be looking at someone like Juventus to get dragged to 5th place if we're looking at actual rivals and how the fixture list pans out. But to be honest, at the same time, we can't predict what's going to happen because it's unpredictable. It doesn't matter if you're playing Sampdoria or Udinese or Fiorentina, you might drop a point or 2. So, 2 or 3 in any scenario. But I feel like it's just nothing can be even if we lose against Lazio, we can't be written off. 100% not. It's going to go to the end game of the season. And I know it's annoying because it's Atalanta away, but
I was about to say it's Atalanta.
If we're not going to be up for that game and get a win in that, then we don't deserve top 4. So
that's right.
I do, but I believe as well at the same time, I think we're going to get it. I feel like there's enough belief in this squad. Even if we don't get the win against Lazio, Ibra's going to be back in the squad for Benevento and for the long stretch, obviously 5 games remaining. And it's going to be all hands on deck and obviously 5 finals. And let's see how we go down from there. But even if we don't beat Lazio, we're still level on points with Juve. And then let's get our job done and then we'll see how we finish.
I don't think it'll go down to the last game of the season, but ultimately the destiny's in our own hands, like Calabria said. What's other teams winning isn't going to cost us top 4. We're going to cost ourselves top 4, whether you want to say it's the manager or the players. That's what's going to cost us the top 4. If these players genuinely want it, on the day they can beat anyone in this league, and I think they've already proved it since post-lockdown when they beat Juve 4-2, when they played Inter off the park at times in the derby earlier in the season. Atalanta's probably the only team that, they could. They're the only team that worries me a bit. But ultimately, it's in our own hands. To be honest, I don't really care what anyone else does. What they do is just a bonus for us. As long as we win our fixtures, which is what we've got to do, top four, it's just in our own destiny. You can blame the manager, blame the players, blame whoever you want, but ultimately, that's what it comes down to. But I firmly believe that Pioli will get the tactics right, and these last 5-6 games, if these players have got any sort of ambition or this team spirit that we've banged on about for the last year, they will pull together and we'll get this. This is where Ibra, we're paying him $7 million a year next year to play maybe a game if we're lucky with his injury track record. This is where he should be pulling these players together before the game and saying, it's on your fucking hands, lads. Like, go out there, do the business, show everyone why they was right to praise you. I think they do deserve a lot of praise for what they've done this season. So it's just on them now.
Do you think, I was going to say about like the penalties drying up. I mean, I made a tweet that we haven't had one since the Udinese game against the start of March. I've seen this nearly 2 months without a penalty. I'm not saying like we need to rely on them. We've been scoring some fantastic goals recently. Chahanoglu's one, Rebic's one against Genoa, I believe, or whoever it was. Fantastic goals. And I don't say I want to always get penalties, but is like in relation to what you're saying, Ollie, that we used to outrun teams on the pitch, getting a lot of penalties from sloppy defensive mistakes where they're obviously unfit. I can remember one when Rebic got one from he got to the ball before a defender once and he clipped him, we get the penalty. Is that in relation to that? I feel like it is. I feel like we're just not sharp enough to win chances.
Fine margins.
I think maybe it is fine margins. I think, again, for all our penalties, people saying, "Oh, we were lucky to giving them." Every penalty that we won was pretty much deserved. Maybe one or two you could question, like the
Donnarumma one. That was it.
Yeah. Maybe you can question that, but again, that just reiterates my fact of how much do we create in games. Penalties aren't luck. You've got to create them chances. The penalties normally given for denying a goal scoring opportunity, and we've created them chances when we've hit the woodwork. When this sees hitters in. I just think I don't think we've had any luck this season, if I'm being honest. I think we've been one of the most unluckiest teams in the league, and I just think now everything is all just running out, and we are doing down, I suppose, I think we are doing a bit of luck. I wouldn't say any penalties have been lucky, and that's a factor of why we are where we are. I just think everything's. I'll put
it this way: would you rather get a penalty in the game or have 11 men for the rest of the game? And we've had some shocking red cards. We talk about the Tonali one that he got, and you see how can he get one for that? And we're seeing one the other day, Milinkovic-Savic, near enough decapitated the fella against
Ronaldo
Napoli.
when he did it.
Ronaldo when so there's clear inconsistencies with that, and we've just been hit with a stick on that. Obviously, Ibrahimovic is
the Ibra red card is the one that really pisses me off looking back at like the fact that they gave it a 1-game ban for that, in hindsight, was absolutely shocking. It was unprecedented. It should have been. If you said something grossly offensive, it's 2 games or more. If you didn't, then there's nothing in the rule book to suggest that he should even get a 1-game ban. But they banned him for a game. And do you know what? He might not have actually played that Genoa game anyway because he has a calf problem, which we should come to expect by now. But still, you're right. It's just another episode that went against us in this season of what might have been. As I've said, it sounds really negative, but we've gone from topping our Europa League group after a pretty arduous qualifying campaign, being top at the winter break, and also still being in the cup and having the derby against Inter after the Torino penalty shootout, and then we crashed out of that.
But that was also another one where the ref done us on that with the second yellow. That was. No one can say Milan has been lucky this season. We have not been lucky. We've created our own luck where we can, and with a very underrated squad, underappreciated squad. The values increased with a lot of players here. The coach has done tremendously well. I feel like we've overachieved the whole season. So you're right. Despite how we finished this season, I'm proud. Regardless if we, you know what? I think being a Milan fan the last decade and seeing us, slumber our way to 10th place, 9th place, 8th place. It's embarrassing to, you just want the season to be done and see who you could potentially sign on loan in the summer, whether it's like Kevin Constant or, I don't know, like Traore or whoever the hell we used to. Used to sign some shocking players, midway through last decade. And now we're, competing for something. We're in the thick of it. That's brilliant. And regardless if we don't make it or not, at least it's growth and it's showing some sort of competitive edge for fans to get behind. And make these podcasts more enjoyable. That we're here, frothing our teeth, going, "Oh, we can't wait for this game. We need to pick up points here." And it just makes the whole thing a lot more entertaining than fizzing our way to a 10th place spot in the season, and it's just embarrassing as a fan. So
you mean talking about picking up points for top four is more enjoyable than talking about picking up points for 11th place?
100%. When the best part of your season is tallying up someone like El Shaarawy's goals. Oh, he's made it to 14. That's embarrassing.
Those are the days, man.
We're setting records. We're setting, winning records this season, undefeated records this season. We've smashed it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree. It's sad that where we have dropped off from in the 2000s, obviously where we're winning Champions League, but ultimately it's happened. It's just part of football. Man United have done the same. But for the first time, under Gattuso, I did believe in the squad quite a bit, and I thought Gattuso was a very good manager that was harsh done by because, like you said, 5 margins in that international game. Gattuso's probably still got a job when we've signed better quality players in that summer. But for the first time in a lot of years, this is the first time that this squad's got me so involved in the season where I've actually believed that there's Scudetto there, that we're so close to getting the Champions League football. And it's got us believing again. And yeah, we have overachieved. When you actually look at the squad on paper, we probably have overachieved. And I couldn't be more proud of the team. And it's a bit sad that from where Milan's history we've dropped from to be proud of potentially finishing in the top 4. It is a bit of a sad drop off, but I can be prouder of this team.
It's a project as well.
It's just a positive step in the right direction. There's nothing wrong with admitting that everything at the moment could be sort of interim. That Pioli's been a great manager, and he might be the one to get us back into a position whereby we're fighting for trophies again, and then we'll see what happens from there. But the squad as well. If this squad is good enough to get us into the top 4, that's fine. But don't let it stagnate. There's always room for improvement and stuff like that. So it's good enough for now. I think that's what.
I was going to say, can you see Lazio sacking Inzaghi when they don't get top 4 this season? Of course they're not.
No,
you have to respect.
They just renewed him until 2025. I think.
Exactly. Yeah. So they can see the history, and he's got them to a few Champions League spots, Coppa Italia finals. I think they won a Coppa Italia a couple of years back. It's part of a project, and if you can believe that this project is going in the right direction, where a lot of fans can this season, because we're seeing an identity, we're seeing a solid formation, we're seeing young players being brought through. The model is working. We're seeing stuff off the pitch. Obviously, a lot of things quite negative at the start of this week with the ESL, whatever. But Gazidis is doing his job to get sponsorships up. So things are working, in my opinion, a lot better than they were in Gattuso's reign, because that was, for me, a temporary thing. And even just players like Bakayoko on loan, it was always going to be short-lived, and we're never going to sign him outright at the end of the season. This is a project, and I believe in this, regardless if it's top 4 or not.
I do. And obviously, I'll support Milan no matter where they are, whether it's Serie D, European Super League, whatever. But I'll find it very hard to watch them next year with as much enjoyment if it's at Pioli. And I know that sounds a bit negative, but I just feel like it's once again another year where we're just going to, if we sack him, we'll hit the reset button.
It's just frustrating when it happens every year,
Yeah, it is.
It is.
We did the right thing. I mean, the Ranić project, we'll never know if that would have worked out. But it was exciting, and we all sort of bought into the ideology of it because it was compatible with how the ownership wanted to run the club. But at the same time, it would have been the biggest reset that we've done since 2000, without a shadow of a doubt.
With Milan, if we'd hired Ranić, we'd have been calling for his head in November. And that's not saying that he wouldn't have got the results, but the chance are the time that it would take for his project to become where he needed to be, we'd probably been about 7th, 8th maybe in November. And where we were under Gianpaolo, and we'd have been calling for his head, and then we'd have wasted another season because it's just a constant loop. And look, I'm so thankful that Twitter wasn't around when we were winning Champions Leagues, because we'd have probably called for Ancelotti's head, because he wasn't doing as well as what Milan Twitter think that he should have been. We should have won a lot more, but we wouldn't have been satisfied with half of the stuff that went on. I know we won Champions Leagues, but
why did he sub on Christian Brocchi and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Crackers, get rid of him. Sack it.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Well, actually, I mean, this is definitely one for over the summer, but I actually think we underachieved under Ancelotti in the 2000s, but that's one for another time. Right,
100%.
I do want to quickly preview. I want to preview Benevento because we've got that on Saturday night. Quick note on Benevento, they are a weird team. Jan said earlier in the chat, he was like, "What the hell's happened to them? How are they in a relegation fight now?"
Yeah,
they were as high as
mid-table.
7th. At the halfway point of the season, they were 10th. They've been as high as 7th, and now they find themselves 17th, having won one game since January the 6th. And what was that one game, lads, to test your knowledge?
Inter.
Oh, no.
Was it Juve?
Juve,
Yeah,
I
they
think,
won
isn't
away
it?
at Juve.
Yeah.
That's just funny to me. But yeah, they've gone to shit basically. They're losing a lot. They can't get a point at home, but regrettably, we're the home side for this one. Do you know
they
what?
might get 3 points.
Yeah, I don't know.
They'll probably get 4.
The top scorer's got 5 goals.
Lapadula?
Yeah.
No, it's Caprari. Lapadula's in second.
Is it?
Well, since when has
With four,
Lapadula
I
been
think.
Peruvian?
Yeah,
always
he's
Is he?
he's half. I think he's half
I
Peruvian.
always thought he
half
was
Italian.
Italian.
He's played.
Nah,
for,
yeah.
He's played for Italian national team. Or has he done
Yeah,
a
he has
Diego
done it.
Costa in?
Doesn't mean he can't be
Yeah.
half Peruvian.
Who was the top goal scorer? You said
Caprari with 5.
he
According to this.
he didn't play today, so I think that's good. I think
Might be out of date because I'm just looking at the Wikipedia overview.
Oh no,
of the
yeah, but
season.
regardless, yeah, and I think I'm looking at a team that played today against Udinese. Marco Sal, who's also sometimes a threat. He came off quite early, so I got the feeling he's injured. So yeah, I mean, this is to me, this has got to be a win. I mean, I respect that they're in a relegation battle. I respect it, but with Ibra back as well, you know, people, yeah, he'll give us this. No, this has got to be a win, 100%. And regardless if we win, lose, or draw against Napoli, this is a dominant win, in my opinion.
I've got to hope so. The thing with Benevento is they leak goals. They're a really bad defence. So whereas Genoa might have come and we thought we're going to struggle because they don't actually shit many, Benevento cannot defend. So we get an early goal in this and it becomes a comfortable. We haven't hammered the team since Crotone, really. That was the 4-0 game. I fancy us to do them 3-0. I think Benevento are in a hopeless slide, and no matter how bad our home form is, we're going to win this one.
Yeah.
We said that against Spezia as well, but I'll say 3-0.
Oh, well, I forgot to give you a scoreline. Actually,
Yes.
I think
after all that,
I'm gonna go for. I still think we can't keep a clean sheet. I'm gonna go for like 3-1, something like that.
I think we're gonna only just beat them 1-0.
Ooh.
I think playing teams that are in a relegation scrap is a lot harder than playing someone that's on your level fighting for the same thing. Personally, there's just a lot riding on it for a team like the Benevento.
For sure.
They stay in Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a tough game, especially with our home form.
Well, Atalanta are 4-0 up, so no favours from me today. They're rampant. They're in for me. They're in.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
100%.
I don't see them moving anywhere. They're fine. Right. Quickly, I don't want to talk too much about the European Super League because it's quickly died to death, really, to be honest. It's not something we have to seriously consider. But we'll just touch on it and say, check out Stefano's video we uploaded on Tuesday night about the whole thing, just in a nick of time before the thing collapsed into flames. But yeah, check that out because that's pretty much the best summary and overview that I've seen, especially from a Milan point of view, and also just looking at the finances of football in general and where the game's heading, which is pretty bleak. So if you're a football purist, maybe don't watch it because it's quite depressing. No, definitely do watch it. So yeah, it's been and gone. We need to talk about it just because it's happened. But how did you feel that Milan's name was in and amongst it? Were you disappointed about it? I personally wasn't surprised because I know that Milan are pretty anti-UEFA. because of the way that we've been screwed over by financial fair play. And I don't think that we're on good terms with the establishment at UEFA with the settlement agreement, which has been quite harsh on us and stuff. So I wasn't surprised to see us part of it. And obviously American ownership, JP Morgan were behind all of this, who of course will know Elliot and stuff like that. I wasn't surprised.
I was by no surprise to see us involved. People were going off on it, and in the back of my head, I'm just like, do you not know who our owners are? Like, they're money hungry people. They're gonna do whatever they can to get more money. No, I don't know and Merca. I don't know how much ownership was behind it, or if it was just like a Gazidis thing. Maldini had no idea. I think that's pretty fucked up. But like Gian said, I'm going to watch a team no matter where they play. I think it's kind of stupid to have a closed league and say it's not closed, 5 teams. You know, all these people are in an uproar. All these Americans are in an uproar. The MLS is a closed league, so I don't know what the fuck they're bitching about. But
and no one watches
I don't know.
So
I don't watch the MLS either, but I think the idea of it was kind of stupid, but I'd still watch it, and I'll accept the money. I'll accept the players that will buy with all the money. So,
I think the whole thing now has been tainted by hypocrisy because UEFA have voted through the new Champions League reform, which involves an expansion of teams, so more games to sell to broadcasters, and also the idea that 2 teams, I think it's 2 teams, it might even be the 4 of them, are going to qualify based on their historical ranking. You know, coefficient essentially.
Yeah, coefficient. Yeah. No, it's actually not, because it's if you look at it, because it's basically, if you finish out of the traditional way to qualify for the Champions League, which is the top 4 in the most, obviously, the super leagues like the Premier League or the Serie A, then it goes down. If you finish outside of that, then where you place obviously in the ranking system will get you straight into there. And what's quite annoying for Italian teams is that the top 6 the alleged top 6 of the big 6 Premier League teams are in the top 14 of the coefficiency. So that basically secures a spot for Tottenham or Man United or Chelsea or Arsenal. If they never make it via top 4, they'll go straight in through the I don't know what they call that sort of route, the whatever route they want to call it. But I think this has come at the worst. That came at the worst time. Typical hypocrisy. We're seeing with UEFA saying that they're not going to penalise English teams because they pulled out sooner than others. It's just the whole situation is a joke in my opinion. The video's there to see. But yeah, I don't know. It's quite embarrassing for football. But I feel like as well, it wasn't the solution at the same time. I just think there's a deeper question here with money in football and selfishness and greed. But
it's something like it's like one evil against another evil, and people are like, UEFA's great, and it's like, no, UEFA's not fucking great. Like, they're so corrupt.
He gave himself a pay rise the other day. I don't know what his name is, and that's and they're saying Seferin out, and are you surprised? Are you surprised that in this country here, NHS workers can't get a pay rise yet? Politicians can. It's just there's so much money involved in sport right now. It's getting a bit ludicrous, but it's where the money is. It's where the entertainment value is. So.
Now, we're going to have to explain the NHS to Maddie, because free healthcare is a thing that we have over here. And it's really good. You should try it.
Yeah.
I would love free healthcare, but Americans are greedy and they don't like to share things. So
I'm still pretty 50-50 on the ESL. I'm not for and I'm not against it. I think there's a lot of good things in it. If you actually... Depends if you believe everything that Florentino says. Some of the stuff I'm like, yeah, definitely for. Then other bits I'm against. There's a lot of hypocrisy. Obviously, because I personally watch Sky Sports News over here because it's the only footballing news outlet that there kind of is. I could watch the Italian one. My dad didn't watch it till 11 o'clock at night. But I think there's a lot of hypocrisy from their side. Especially like Gary Neville, Gary Lineker were totally against it, but then Gary Lineker will happily be the lead pundit for the World Cup in Qatar after everything that they've done. And then Gary Neville will sit there happily with Sky Sports watching fans charge £15 a game, being charged £15 a game to watch the club and stuff like that. But then the bit that I don't like about it is no relegation side. If you're one of the 12 clubs, you are firmly in there week in, week out, year in, year out. That's a bit that I don't really like about it. But other than that, I thought it had some pretty good ideas, and it'd be nice to see it. Perry's is kind of right that from the quarterfinal onwards, maybe one anomaly a year. If you look at, it's normally the same 8 teams that are fighting in the quarterfinals, and a lot of times you end up playing the same team anyway. Just depends how the draw goes. So I'm not totally against it. I think it just needs a couple of bits of tweaking.
Look who's won the Champions League. Oh yeah, look who's won the Champions League in the last, you look through the decades of it. It's always been similar teams. There's always been, Real Madrid, Milan, Barcelona, Liverpool.
Barcelona, Bayern, Liverpool, even Liverpool. They had one or two good seasons, and bang, they're back to winning the European Cup. It's what they do.
It's the same teams, and I'd seen a couple of English pundits say, "Oh, it'll kill the game." This, that, the other. It's not fair on the small teams. Look, Ajax got through to the semi-finals of it, and then their squad was ransacked. All the best players
talked about that, did it?
No, and that's what's going to happen whether you're in the Super League, Champions League or not. Yes, this one small team, it might be a great underdog story, but ultimately they're never going to win it. And when they do, the team's just going to get ransacked anyway by the top players, just like Leicester did in the Premier League. They won the Premier League, and only Jamie Vardy's remaining. And the big six, as it was, came in and just took the players, and it's going to happen. That's football. That's why I'm not totally against it, but I'm not. It's a tough one.
I will say I like the new
football.
I do like the new Champions League format where it's like a league instead of groups. I think that's
I agree.
I think that's kind of just what's happening with the European Super League, isn't it?
I like the league format. I think the league format's pretty good.
Yeah, I just like the league format where you play everybody, right? Except the top 4 people get an automatic, or the top 8 get an automatic bye to the knockout round or something.
Yeah, but then again, isn't that the same as there's not really much competition because you don't have to win your group to get through to the last 8 or whatever it is. You just have to enough to be. Yeah, but you only have to do well enough to be in the top 4. Like for the European Super League, for example, everyone was saying it's no competition because you can finish 8th and still go through to the knockouts. Isn't that the same as the Champions League format? You don't actually.
I don't think the European League had a knockout stage.
Yeah, it does.
European Super League was just pretty much like a league where you play everyone, but you didn't get relegated.
Yeah, but then you can't get relegated.
Go through to like a knockout stage of a quarterfinal.
Yeah, wasn't it like a sort of like NBA seeding, like first would play 8th or something
first
like
8,
that, and then second.
So that's what I mean. Like a good team.
UEFA were never against the idea of a Super League. They're just against the idea of them not controlling it.
100%.
Exactly, and the good thing about it is that it's shown that the UEFA's got an extra $4 billion stashed away somewhere, and that's what they're pumping into what they're pumping into the reform. So it's just hypocrisy. I think, like with Sky Sports, I don't want to go into it too much, but they're only bitter about it because they weren't contacted first, saying you can have exclusive rights. If they were said you could have exclusive rights, Sky Sports would have bit their hands off, and it would be a massive uproar on their part, or BT Sport, for example.
Yeah, I think it's all just a thing of control, and I've seen it countless times, and it's quite ironic because we sit here doing a podcast and on YouTube and deliberating a football club or sport, and who are we to have any sort of opinion about the club? We never played the game, but we're fans in the day, and fans. Things are evolving, things are changing. You laugh about Arsenal Fan TV, but these people pay money for season tickets. We pay money to watch our team play on TV. We're entitled to an opinion as much as anyone else. But companies like Sky Sports want to control your opinion. So someone like Gary Neville or Gary Lineker want their opinion to be solid and it's solidified and it's right and it's correct. But anyone else is incorrect. And the same thing happens here with UEFA. Like, we do it right, this ain't right. Well, things change, things can change. And regardless if it hasn't happened now, eventually something is going to change in the future. And football's going to get sold to the highest bidder. And, we'll just go from there.
It has to change, and that's the way it's going. The thing that Perez said that was really worrying in that interview to me, he said that young people aren't entertained by football anymore. 18 to 24-year-olds aren't watching a full game. He actually even hinted at making football games shorter, which is ridiculous. But the way that he talked about football fans is not as if they're football fans, but as if they're consumers. No. And that Real Madrid's rivals, from a brand standpoint, are not necessarily Barca and Atletico Madrid, but Netflix, YouTube. They're competing for people that they see as consumers. Football fans aren't a thing anymore. Only as you go lower down can football fans. It's great to see so many fans rally, go to the stadiums, protest, call the owners out on all this. That is fantastic, and it shows that fans can still be mobilised when things go bad with football. But fan protest didn't overturn this. It was the immense negative reaction of
it's just football's a business. At the end of the day, it's just a business, and these people are in it to make money. And if you think otherwise, you are ignorant.
The bit that made me laugh is like Chelsea fans, Man United fans going to these protests wearing the club shirt, but buying the club shirt, which is putting money in the only pockets that you want out. At least go there in neutral clothing. Don't go there with your £100 shirt that you just bought a couple of weeks ago that's just gone into your owner's pockets. Like, I think that just sums up.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That is really funny, though. It's so fun. So ironic.
From what I heard something about, like, the English clubs pulled out because of something to do with Brexit and how it goes against, obviously, the ideology of that, which would have crippled the Premier League and obviously destroyed that and what that can bring economically for the country. And obviously, once the top 6 pulled out of the Super League, even Agnelli said that was it. It was finished. We needed them. We needed that country, that city of London, 3 teams there, the economy that brings in. As soon as they pulled out, it was game over. So it wasn't the fans. 100% it wasn't the fans, but it's great to see them all rally up and buy shirts at the football fan club and obviously sit there with a protesting post. It's just...
The funniest thing I saw was someone outside the United ground who decided to burn an American flag. I was like, well, what does that achieve?
I mean, that's
it's because the Americans are behind it.
Yeah, but
I guarantee you, it's the American.
That's just provocative,
owners.
and that's going to lose you as many backers as it's going to gain you. But anyway, we'll do a couple of questions and I'll wrap it up because 1 hour 24 now. I am conscious of time.
It's nice.
Labrilla, my question, who do you think is responsible for the constant injury list? Now, we ought to actually say at this point, apparently Tomori's got a small knock, but he's going to be okay for the game tomorrow. For example, Ibra, Teo missed the game in midweek, and we weren't expecting that. That just kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, Romagnoli's had his setbacks. Benacer hasn't looked his sharpest. Neither has Çalhanoğlu. But bottom line is, we've had loads of injuries this season. Is it Pioli's training methods or Milan Lab for being unable to keep the players from getting injured?
I think a mix of both.
From my perspective, from where I see it is, the medical staff are there to do a job and they release the players into the training. If the medical staff don't think a player's fit enough to go into training and play a match, he will tell Pioli not to. And I don't think Pioli's that idiotic that if someone senior who is in charge of looking after these players' treatment and stuff like that says, look, Benacer, he can't play more than 60 minutes. I don't think Pioli will play him for 90 minutes. I do think the main bulk of it is on the medical staff. I remember players used to come to, people who say football used to come to Milanella to kind of retire because he knew that they could get 3 or 4 years extra out of the game because our medical staff were that good. And recently, it just seems our medical staff have completely dropped in. Even when we had Gattuso as manager, Montella, we still had loads of injuries. So I don't think it's the manager's training regime. I think it's more to do with the medical staff.
I think it's a combination of... there's definitely a more intense fixture list. We started playing competitive games in July with the Europa League qualifying, combined with a pretty intense style of play. I'll link the article in the description. That it's now a few weeks old, but it shows our decline in our athletic data and how we're just not running. The idea behind it, and it's interesting. We're not actually running less than other teams anymore in terms of total distance, in terms of the intensity of sprint, all that kind of stuff. But other teams are now running more, so we've lost our advantage. So if other teams have got fitter, as we've just stayed where we're at, so I found that quite interesting. I feel like the first half of the season, the way that we were playing, and we really were going at teams like a pack of dogs for 90 minutes. It probably has taken its toll, and the way that you can tell that is there's a lot of grade 1 and 2 muscle injuries. which comes from a natural weakening of the muscle generally. It's not like a grade 3 like what Benacer did, where he actually tweaked it running. A lot of these are just fatigue, and that's what happens when you play a lot of games and you play them as intensely as we do and with as packed fixture list as what we have. And that's where we're at. And I think we don't know what goes on behind closed doors in the treatment room. But if anything, I get the impression that Pioli's been overcautious with reintroducing players. I get the impression that Benacer's been fit to start games on a couple of occasions, but hasn't, and we've brought him off the bench kind of thing. So I think if anything, he is on the side of caution. But we'll never know what gets said, and it'd be interesting to see if there is some changes in the summer. Because if you look at other teams, Atalanta being a prime example of a team that tries to kind of do what we do, but they do it better, with pressing and movement. They're not struggling anywhere near as much as what we are. So then you start to ask questions. Then you start to think, how come they're okay? How come Inter have been okay and we haven't? So I think that there will be some introspection done at the end of the season. And
I think it's Lukaku, isn't it, with that voodoo, and you must have done something to us. No. Honestly, I think it's a combination of things where, yeah, you're right. It comes from an extensive fixture list. 47, 48 games right now. Lack of pre-season to get things ready, obviously players fit to prime conditioning. We've been playing games probably since longer than other teams have. Thursday night fixtures, they kick into it. I know these are small, minute details, but they do cause an effect. We see Man United having an injury crisis. The correlation is that we both play Europa League. Inter Milan don't have any because they fell out of all their European Cup competitions back in December. So there's a lot of things, and I feel like it's obviously a massive room for improvement. Even the small squad that we have, the fact that when people are going down, obviously when it was from October, Ibra got injured, Benacer got injured, people had to step up. The intensity for those players had to obviously rise up as well, and then slowly everyone kept added to that injury list. And maybe it's that we just don't have enough valuable squad depth to rely upon, and that's allowed it to sort of the train of injuries to just compile. And that's obviously where the January market sort of screwed us, and we're at right now because we can't rely on a second centre forward to rely on. And is Mate good enough? He's okay, but is he as good as Benacer? No, he's not. So there's a lot of things. So
yeah. Rocky Award, will you be gutted if Gigio leaves? Let's end on this question. And, as an update, I don't want to talk about this every week. We kind of skimmed over it the last couple of weeks, but we better mention at this point, there's a few places now that are saying that we've agreed personal terms with Mike Maignan. I think that's how you say it, Maignan, to be his replacement. He's kept 18 clean sheets in the league for Lille this season. He's actually the highest ranked goalkeeper in Europe by who scored rating. I don't know what that algorithm's like for goalkeepers, but he's pretty good, basically. Rumoured fees around about 15 mil. He will take 2 mil a year on a 5-year deal. Now, to put that in perspective, if Donnarumma was to sign a 5-year extension at 8 million net per year, be 40 million net, but double it because of tax, so that's an 80 million commitment for the club. Mike Maignan's contract would be 2 million a year for 5 years, so 10 million net. Would actually work out with the tax relief that you get after 2 years at around about 17 million. So you've got to spend 63 million there that you can do a little bit with. I tweeted earlier, I said, I think we're now at the situation, we're at the point in the situation where it's a win-win for Milan. Either Gigio renews at the terms that we can afford, because we can afford it, we've offered it. He renews at those terms, and everybody's happy because we keep a symbol of our project. Boyhood fan of the club. He is still an elite goalkeeper. There's no two ways about it, and it would be good to keep him because it would show how strong our project is. But the flip side of it is he goes and we potentially save around about 60 million euros that can then be invested into other areas. Gigio leaving could potentially, even though we don't get a fee for him, be the catalyst to potentially making 2 or 3 real quality reinforcements. And then you start thinking about, actually, is this a sacrifice worth making?
I'll add to that quickly with a few other stats about this. Is it Maignan or I can't pronounce it?
Yeah, we'll go with that for now.
18 clean sheets. Donnarumma's got 9 this season. For Lille, obviously, they've conceded 20 goals a season. We've conceded Milan 35 goals. I know you can talk about different styles of play. It's a 5-year deal. He's 25 years old right now, this Manyan, 26 in July. So on a 5-year deal, that covers him up to basically 31 years old. You wouldn't have to worry about a toxic agent to work with. There's a lot of winning by signing this player, and for the money involved and the wage he's on, this is steal. But yeah, go on. I'll let you carry on about the bringing it back to Donnarumma.
I would like to see him stay, but I'm also ready for him to leave. Like, he's just holding the club at ransom, and no player is bigger than the club itself. So if he wants to let his agent, control his life, then so be it. Mm-hmm. Too bad for him.
Honestly, I genuinely, pardon me French, couldn't give a fuck now if he leaves or if he stays. I really couldn't. I'm so bored of the situation. We've paid Antonio 3 or 4 years worth of money just to keep him here, and that's still not sweet enough for him. I don't want to come over this every 5 years when it's time for a renewal with him.
Right.
As much as we all like to blame Raiola, at the end of the day, Raiola's just doing his job. It's all on Gigio. Kiss the badge, wear the captain's armband, sign the contract. You just go in there by yourself, you do the business. Like, I know we touched on it just before about like how Ibra's done it. Yeah, it's a bit of a different situation because Ibra's at the end of his career now, so he doesn't need an agent to do his work for him. A bit like Kevin De Bruyne, he's happy to stay at Man City. He doesn't need anyone to do his business for him. Donnarumma, I suppose, kind of might, but he's employed Raiola, knowing very well what he's like over the years, what type of football agent he is, and if he genuinely
but like you said. Sorry, go ahead. I would say it's going to happen again in 5 years.
Yeah, no, of course it is. But
when he's 27, they're going to be asking for 12.
Yeah,
that's also
you should not be your goalkeeper should not be the highest paid player on the team.
It shouldn't. Actually, that shows a critical lack of ambition.
Yeah, I'll say this about.
I do agree, and I don't think Donnarumma has saved us as much this season. Everyone's making him out to have. In past years, he definitely has. And although mine's up there, he's been very critical into some of our league positionings in past seasons. But this season, I don't think he's been anywhere near as effective as what he has been. And the difference between us not winning the Scudetto and just finishing inside the top 4 has been a striker, and that is who you pay 12 million a year to. When people say, "Oh, it's gutting if he leaves," when you've seen Kaká leave, when you've seen Shevchenko leave, when you've seen Pirlo leave on a free, all these top players that have won Champions League, Kaká, Shevchenko, no, shut up. No, like when you've seen them win Ballon d'Ors with us, they're the type of players that upset me when they leave, especially when they've given so much to the club and they've lived. When Gigio's highest position's been a 5th place finish and a 4-0 loss and a 1-0 loss in the Coppa Italia, he hasn't made history with us yet. And I know people won't like to hear that, but I'm not going to be that bothered. There's going to be life after Gigio. And
right.
I genuinely believe that a world-class goalkeeper isn't what wins you the league. It's a world-class striker and a world-class midfielder. You just need a good goalkeeper to get through it.
Do you remember the game when Inzaghi scored the late winner in his last ever game against Navarra at San Siro? And it was the day that Inzaghi, Gattuso and Nesta all retired at the end of that particular season. Or rather, Nesta went on to Montreal Impact, but that was their last swan song. That for me is what this club will always be about. We are a destination.
Exactly.
Clubs should want to spend their career here, and if they don't, then the door's always open. We'll find someone who really does want to be here.
You see players like Marco van Bommel crying when he left us. I think
after 1.5 years.
Seidel finished that year as well. Zambrotta.
They're players that have got no emotional connection with Milan, like Donnarumma supposedly has. Like, he kisses the jersey, he wears the captain's armband. If you genuinely love Milan that much, and it's not just about loving Milan. If he doesn't believe in this project, then that says a lot, I suppose, about the project too. Like, if he's willing to go to Juventus, who are kind of in the same exact position as us, then he doesn't love Milan like people say he doesn't. People say, "Oh, it's not all about loyalty," but I'm sorry, part of it is. I'd like to say that if I was a professional footballer and I made it to Milan, there is no amount of money in the world that would make me leave.
What's the story about Maldini renewing where Maldini just walked in and said, walked in and said, I'm not bothered, just give me another year at the same salary. We'll keep going as we are because I'm happy. I mean, he was on, I think the highest Maldini ever earned was 2 million net. And when he was earning that, he was like in the bottom third in terms of earners at the club. That's what it means when you choose with your heart.
With Donnarumma, I have to say, I think we get so hell bent into this, so emotionally attached to it. It's because I feel like we look at it as a business. We look at how much we've invested in this player, and of course, he came in at a time when the club was really, really struggling, and we had to give this 16-year-old prodigy a chance over the fumbling Diego Lopez. And obviously, he's surged into, he's an incredible player. He's an incredible player. He's also improved. Probably is, delivering his releasing with his kicking and whatnot. Whether it's comfortable in possession, he's improved so much in that aspect. I feel like we just care about how much money we would have made if we sold him traditionally, as how much other people are getting for him. That's all we care about. And if you look back at history, you look back at the teams of the past, especially successful Milan teams, when we had Dida in goal, and Dida was okay, I liked him, but he was obviously the weakest link of the team back then. We had like Rossi in goal in the 90s. We've never been a team that's always had the best goalkeeper in the world. We've made up for it in other departments. And I feel like we can easily replace him with someone just as good, but we just care about losing this potential money pot that we're going to get. And look, to me, if he goes to Juventus, it's betrayal. It's like Baggio going to Juventus from Fiorentina in the 90s. It's complete betrayal because it goes against what you do. If he goes to PSG or a Premier League team, then so what? Fair enough. Get your money elsewhere. Enjoy the Champions League. We'll find another way. But it's a really hard one, and I'm fed up with it right now, and I'd rather get this agent off the books. And I feel like we just got to move on because we can't keep going through this cycle of ifs and buts, if he's going to resign, see where the project's going, if we're going to get top four. I said this on a tweet against Genoa. It's his mistakes which could potentially be costing us top four. So I feel like it's just complete hypocrisy to be like, holding out for what could be when you're also in control of your own destiny and this club's destiny. So
it is, and that's what's doing my head in about a lot of the fan base at the minute is, yes, he has saved us loads in the past, and no one's disputing that. But right now, forget about what he's done in the past because it's here and now, and his mistakes are costing us. And that could be the difference between, like I said, the Scudetto. Maybe, obviously, I still think we've got the top four, but finishing outside the top four, if you want to be really pessimistic about it, it's his mistakes that ultimately, some of his mistakes, when you look back, are going to cost us. And that's not what you pay £12 million a year goalkeeper. It should be his saves that are sending us into positions. And this season, and just because he did it when we were finishing 8th, 9th, 5th, that's not good enough when we were fighting for the top.
What do you think about the arrogance as well of the idea that we've actually we've had an offer on the table to him of 8 million net for weeks now, apparently, and not had a response either way? That to me is pretty arrogant. We deserve a response. We deserve a reply.
It is,
you'd think that they'd walk up to him in training and be like, "Yo, what's the deal?"
It's very delicate, though. It's a very delicate subject.
That's where I don't just genuinely think.
Sorry, say something.
Sorry, I think it lagged out a bit there.
Oh, fair enough. It's a very delicate subject. I think it's one where you can't just pull him up and go like, sign the thing or not, or leave, or you're not playing for us. I do think there's a line that has to come across. We can't give him the captain's armband when he hasn't re-signed. I think that some things like that need to be addressed. It's a really hard one to pinpoint. I just think it comes from obviously an agent, and the sooner we stop dealing with his clients, the sooner we'll not have to worry about these situations in the future. It's just very worrying, and it's a very unnecessary negotiation, and the thing for our club who's trying to build something legit and sustainable should have to deal with. But unfortunately, we do.
Funny because I wrote a thing earlier from Calcium Macabre, was Daniele Longo, saying that we've actually inquired about somebody that we think could be a good deputy to Ibra. We inquired with his agent, and that player is Daniel Marlon, who was represented by Mino Raiola. I'm thinking, what are you doing, Paolo? That's probably not the thing to do at the moment. Give him even more leverage in negotiations by saying we also want another one of your clients.
But like, I get it in like things like the Premier League. It's always like, how can we just get even more better because we have unlimited money, and that's why like Man City are buying Edison and Liverpool buying Alisson. I get it; those fine margins can make a difference. But in Serie A, like Handanovic in goal for Inter Milan, he's 37 years old.
Chesney was like nothing at Arsenal, and he's gone to Juve and been fantastic.
And even Juventus fans are calling him to go out. He's done okay, but recently he's been very poor. He probably cost them in that Champions League exit against Porto. Is it Golini in goal for Atalanta? We're not talking about the cream of the crop being in goal in these Serie A teams. We just need someone who's good enough. And if we sign this Magnan guy, he's probably better than everyone else at the top six in Italy. Pepe Reina for Lazio.
That's a joke.
I don't even know who's in goal for Roma. I'm not even sure these days. I think he's not bad. He's the Spanish dude.
Paul Lopez, and they want rid of him. Apparently, he's been crap, and they paid good money for him. Like the ones where the keepers make the fine margins are. You look at Musso at Udinese. There is a goalkeeper that wins them a lot of points because he ain't got in front of him, really. Cranio's pretty good as well, and obviously Cagliari have struggled this season, but and now he's 26, actually. I didn't even realise that. But that's why you get your difference makers, not necessarily the teams at the top. Strakosha's been at Lazio.
You look at our Scudetto winning season, the last one, and look how many goals we conceded. And we had Christian Abbiati in there. In Serie A, I don't think it's down to the goalkeeper because it's such a tactical league, and you just need a solid defence. And if the goalkeeper can save a couple of shots, then you kind of winning. But ultimately,
Ryan Schofield,
that's just what it is. And
no, but I also feel like the attachment.
Wow. But then you look. Like we say, it's Raiola and stuff, but then you look at Abate, he was a Raiola, one of Raiola's lads. Bonaventura was under Raiola. They all wanted to stay at Milan. It was us that didn't want them. So as much as it is, we blame the agent and he is a money grabber. That's his job. Ultimately, and I've said it for the last 6 months, it's a player who signs the contract and it's a player that walks up there at the end of the day and puts pen to paper. And you can do it without your agent. Yeah, he's there to negotiate it. If he's making stuff hard and you genuinely want to stay somewhere, you just go sign a contract. And that's
I will say this.
Contract without Raiola.
I will say this. Imagine obviously the top four race, and I'm saying that it's going to come down to, I feel Milan or Juve are going to miss out on the top four. Can you imagine the game in a couple of weeks' time when Donnarumma's playing in goal for potentially who he might be signing on free for? Let's see how he plays in that game. I'm not to be like a bit pessimistic, and that will be actually very funny. Are you going to leave us for a team that, say, if we knock out Juventus off their perch and they get fifth place, are you going to go join them? This is we're showing you the project
this
right
is what
now.
You wanted.
So.
Yeah.
What I would say, do you know what would be nice is if when we qualify for the top four, and if we do it before if we do it before the last game of the season or last couple of games of the season, just put him on the bench. We've got nothing else to lose. Put Tiramisu in there. Yeah, put him in there.
Antonio, put Antonio in.
Yeah, but just be like, look, you didn't believe in this project before. You didn't want to be here 2 weeks ago, so you're not being part of this Champions League team. There's the door. See you later.
Mm-hmm. Right, we're going to wrap it up there, boys, because we're like nearly at 2 hours. But it's been an absolute pleasure as always. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Been joined by Madison.
Yeah. Fun fact before this episode, Oliver goes, it's going to be a short one. Whenever Oliver says it's going to be a short one, it's never going to be a short one. But we had some good discussion this week, so I hope you guys made it this far and enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and Gian.
I'll see you all next week when we're still second in the table, comfortably in the Champions League, and everything's blown over, and Pioli's now getting a statue put outside San Siro because the reactionary fans have changed their mind again.
We're actually third, but
we'll be second.
When we win, we'll be second.
Well, maybe, but Atalanta might win as well.
Yeah, but as long
Fun
as we win our
fact:
games,
this podcast was longer than a lot of Disney movies. And
there's more in this. There's a better plot line to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's because we've got a new starting man, Stefano. Stefano,
It's
thank you for
not so
joining us
predictable, you know.
The pessimist.
Yeah, the realist. Yeah,
But no, yeah,
Stefano,
it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to join you guys, and I'm hoping I don't get too many hate mail for my prediction against Lazio. But these things can happen.
No
Yeah,
one can get more hate mail than Maddie gets.
Probably.
Maddie gets
I don't
it.
get much hate mail. Just
No, I just don't
Lucas.
show it to you.
Do people?
No, they don't.
I'm like, damn.
It's just
Fuck you
Lucas
guys.
and Lucas. We miss you, so please send a.
I need a rating. Yeah,
Let
where's
us
my
know-
ratings at?
Let us know that you're well, because I know you've been feeling under
Yeah.
the weather, so let us know that you're well.
Yes, definitely. And on that note, we will see you in a week's time, hopefully with 6 points in the bag. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you
La
then.
palla per Rebic, Rebic Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, gol!